So you guys have wanted to see some live action. I'm not going to be able to record anything at the table per the owner's request, which I'm totally respecting. So just know I'm in Wisconsin at a home game. Should be pretty good. Really looking forward to it. It's been like a month since I've been able to sit and play. So should be good times. So overall, not too bad. In for 2,000. It's my first live session since the World Series. In for 2,000. I had a first bullet of 1,000, lost it, bought in for a second bullet of 1,000, ran it quickly up to $2,000, actually ran it up to 2,500, and I'm out for 1955. Net loss of 45 bucks. Not the end of the world. I mean, I had a couple of $600-700 pots that didn't go my way, but on a nittier game, on a tighter game, it's okay. I'm totally okay with a couple of opportunities to win 600-700 bucks, but overall, not too bad. So yesterday I played for about 7 or 8 hours, and I ended up losing 45 bucks. I really felt like playing. It was my first live session since Vegas, and I always advise my students, you know, one of the things that you should never do is, if you don't feel like playing, don't play tired, don't play emotional, and don't force it. It's one of those things that where you need to feel like you need to play. And yesterday I felt like I needed to play, but the game was so short-handed, and it was a little nitty. It wasn't exactly the best game in the world. It's actually, I'm tempted, the next time I come through Wisconsin, Three Rivers is only apparently another 2.5 hours from Green Bay or so. It's in Chicago. And I think next time I come through Wisconsin, I think I'm just going to continue going south, and I'm going to try out Three Rivers. But in any case, today, I'm driving. I'm going on to play this home game again. We're supposed to have some of the same players, but some different players, so hopefully it'll be a little bit juicier, a little bit more splashy. I am playing tired. For whatever reason, even though I got decent sleep last night, I woke up super early, and it's already like basically 8 o'clock at night. But this time, instead of being there right when the game starts, like I was yesterday, I'm showing up a few hours after the game has started. So hopefully some people will already be tilted and things of that nature. But yeah, yesterday I only got involved in like 2 pots, maybe 3 pots that were any significant value, you know, anything over $1,000, and nothing over like $2,000 or $3,000. Hoping that can happen tonight, where I can be involved in some pots that are substantially bigger. So we'll see. It's Saturday night. I will tell you, I went to Oneida Casino during the day, and I ran into a good friend of mine, and I just said to him, I said, hey, I didn't see you at the PLO game last night. Are you going to go tonight? And the floor and the dealer both jumped on my ass as I was walking through the poker room and put my name on a list because they were paranoid about me, you know, taking players. First of all, if you run a good poker room, and I'm going to say this, and I don't care what kind of hate I get for it, if you run a good poker room, you could care less what the conversation's going on between your players. If you run a really shitty poker room, or a really unprofessional poker room, such as Oneida Casino and even the Island, which is in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, you're going to be paranoid about losing your players. And they are 2 of the worst poker rooms I have played in. I've been in 139 different poker rooms, give or take a few. I would not say that they're in my top 10. I would say both of those are easily in my bottom 10 list as far as professional standards, quality of calls, quality of games, etc., etc. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I was genuinely shocked. I hadn't even sat at a table yet, and then when they did call my name and I went to go get chips, the floor person had another talk with me. Hey, by the way, you're not gonna, you know, you can't talk about other games. And I was just like, well, you guys used to have PLO here. and you don't have PLO anymore, and I'm talking to a friend of mine, I'm like, but I tell you what, I'll just text him. Like, you're going to stop me from talking to my friend? How ignorant are you? Okay, I'm done venting. In any case, don't let that put you on tilt, guys. The games at Oneida were not good. They were just all no limit, but they were very OMCs. Lots of old men with coffee, tons of limpers, not very much action. They had 1-2-5 table going on a Saturday, and like 3 or 4 1-3 tables going. Matter of fact, if I went back there to play again, I'd probably play the 3-6 just for fun and get a little inebriated. But honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to Oneida, at least probably not for the next year. Anytime I go through, again, Wisconsin, I think I'm just going to keep heading south and hit up Rivers. I've had a few of the viewers have told me Rivers Casino is really good. It just opened up. It's in Chicago or near O'Hare, so I think I'm going to try that out. Maybe at the end of the month, or I'll go back to MGM. But in any case, let's see how we do tonight, as we're going into a game that's already started. Buying in for whatever the match stack is. So if somebody's got 2,000 or 3,000 in front of them, that's what I'm going to buy in for. Yesterday, everybody bought in for like 500 to 1,000, and then somebody bought in for like $2,000 after they got felted because somebody else had $2,000, and that was about it. And I ended up leaving way earlier than I normally do. Normally I open the game and close it, but the game was just not good. Like I said, usually game selection is so important when you're trying to grind for a living. And keep in mind, even though as the professor is trying to do vlogging, I've been a professional poker player before I was a vlogger. So when I play for 8, 10, 12 hours, or if I play and the table's not good, I get up and leave. I did get a little bit of content, and I apologize that there is no live content. Again, the owner doesn't allow it. That's yet another reason for me to skip this game. But I'm in Green Bay for personal reasons that I'm not going to get into. So I'm going to play this game tonight and see what happens. I'll keep you guys posted. So just doing a quick update. I've been here for about 2 hours so far. This game is much better than it was yesterday. We have a different lineup of players. We also have some big stacks. Started off buying in for 1,000, not realizing some people were buying in for 2 and 3, which is good. Yeah, these guys are they're definitely action players. So this game is much better than it was yesterday. They really misplay bomb pots. Just in general, I know a lot of you have talked about how to play bomb pots. Again, the biggest thing on bomb pots is you have to be drawing to both boards in order to win. And so I'll give you an example of how they misplay bomb pots. Also, don't try to bluff on a dry ace on a bomb pot. But I get one hand, I got 6-7, jack, queen, double suited in a bomb pot. I'm on the button. I have diamonds and spades. And on the top board comes out king 6-8 with 2 hearts. And on the bottom board, it comes out queen, jack, 5. And big blind decides to pot it for 80. We're 8-handed. Folds around to the low jack. Low jack decides to call. The cutoff calls, and of course I've got top 2 pair on the bottom board and 1 pair on the top board, so I go ahead and call. So we go 4 ways to the turn. Turn brings in 9 of hearts on the top, so the front door flush comes in, and then on the bottom board comes a 7. So now I have 3 pair on the bottom board. I have an open-ended straight draw on the top board, but again, no hearts, but I'm on the button. So it checks around to me. And at this point in time, I'm thinking I could probably buy this bomb pot by betting pot, because I have the bottom board completely locked up. The only thing I'm losing to on the bottom board is a set of 5s. And even if I'm losing to that, I still have some outs. So I go ahead and bet pot for 400. The big blind calls. The hijack goes in the tank. Or I'm sorry, the low jack goes in the tank for a little while. And then he folds. And when people go in the tank and then they fold on a bomb pot, that usually signifies that they have 1 board, but they don't have 2. So that's just something to pick up when you're playing and you're picking up reads on people. So in any case, he folds, and then the cutoff calls. I did not want that. I only wanted 3 ways. So we go 3 way, or I only wanted heads up. So we go 3 ways to the river, And on the top board, a 10 of hearts comes out. So now there's 4 hearts out there. I have the nut straight with 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King. And then the bottom board comes out another 7. So I have 7s full of queens. So the big blind checks. The cutoff decides to rip it all in for the rest of his stack, which is 400. And then I decide to go all in behind him. And then, of course, the big blind folds. And the big blind had king, 6, 9. So he flopped 2 pair. He showed his hand. The cutoff just had a dry ace with 8, 10. So he didn't have anything at all on the bottom board. And he had a dry ace, so he's trying to signify strength. And basically, was, I guess, a gift, if you will. I don't really like his play because he check calls the turn, which signifies he's not going to have the nut flush. If he bet out pot on the turn, it's a little bit of a tougher call for me to make. I probably still make it, but yeah, that's where we're at. I'll give you another update in 2 hours. So we just finished the night. The game was much better today than it was yesterday. I was in for 4,000. I kept buying in for $1,000 bullets. It was super swingy tonight. Started off up about $2,000 from some people misplaying some bomb pots. And there's 2 hands I'm going to go over with you that were very significant in Omaha. The problem is when you have a long session in Omaha, there's so many different hands that you can go over. But there's 2 hands I'm going to go over. Both were over $5,000 pots. Both were monsters. The first hand, I look down at king, king, 9, 9 with 1 suit of diamonds. And I am in the small blind. Straddle's on. We are 8-handed. And the action starts where there's a limper. Middle position decides to raise it up to $30. There's 4 callers. I call, even though I've got king, king, 9, 9. I considered 3-betting, but I'm in the small blind, so I'm completely out of position. I don't like being out of position with super deep stacks. And when I say super deep stacks, I got 3,000, and a lot of other people got a decent amount behind. It gets back to middle position or under the gun +1 limper, and he limp pots it. So he limp pots it for 220, so he makes it, or not 220, I'm sorry, 185. We get 1 caller in the middle position. The cutoff calls, the button calls, I consider backdoor 4-betting, but I just go ahead and flat because I want to see where we're at. So I go ahead and flat. The person to my left, who is the big blind, was pretty tilted. He had a pocket ace as a previous hand and lost like a $1,500, $1,800 pot. So he goes ahead and decides to put the 4-bet for the backdoor 4-bet for all of his chips, which is only like $580. But that reopens the raising range. So under the gun +1 gets to him. He decides to rip it all in. He rips it all in for $2,090 effective. And he's about down $1,000 right now. But in any case, a couple people fold. The cutoff decides to call for 1,200. And the button folds. So it gets back to me. And it's only 1,900 to call to win a $6,300 pot. So it's 1,900 to win another 4,300. And so it's one of those things where I'm getting the right odds. King, king, 9, 9 against aces. If they don't have my suit, has 35% equity against aces. Against 2 other random hands, my equity is going to be taken down just a little bit. But my equity is still going to be around 30%. So maybe I wasn't quite getting the right odds, but I looked at it and I was like, I'm up $2,000 for the night. If I bink this pot, I'll be up like $5,000 or $6,000. And not only that, but king, king, 9, 9 with a suit. I am going to flop a set 1 out of 3.75 times. I am going to get a straight about 2% of the time. And if he doesn't have my suit covered, my flush by itself is good 4% of the time. Add all that up and it comes out to be about 30% equity or 33% equity. So I'm getting the right odds. So I reluctantly make the call, and the flop comes ace, 8, 8, and the turn's a king, and the river is a brick. And the gentleman does show pocket aces, and he scoops a massive pot, $6,000 pot. Fast forward, he ends up leaving. Now I'm stuck. because right after that hand, I lose a $1,900 pot with second set with the second nut flush draw against top set, no flush draw. And we break out, we get it all in on the turn, and we end up breaking out. So I end up losing a $1,900 pot. So I end up going from being up 2,000 to literally within about 30 minutes, I am now in for $4,000. And it wasn't that I was tilting. I kept getting really good hands, and they just kept being second best. So fast forward a few hours, and I'm officially in the game now for $4,000. I'm hovering stuck between $2,000 and $3,000, and I am in the cutoff. And straddles on. Under the gun decides to open to 30. Middle position calls. Gentleman to my right calls. I look down at 7, 9, 10 jack with clubs, just one suit. And because I'm stuck and really nothing's gone my way so far since that big hand that I lost, I decide to flat in position instead of raising. And the button goes ahead and obliges and calls. And so we go 5 ways to the flop, where I'm in the cutoff, and the only person I have to worry about for position is in the button. And the flop comes queen jack 4 with 1 heart. And so I have an open-ended straight draw, and it checks to the gentleman to my right. It goes check, check, check. Gentleman to my right decides to bet pot for 150. Now, I always tell you guys to watch out what you have, because obviously if a king comes up, I still don't have the nuts. Ace 10 is going to be the nuts, but I decided to go ahead and call because I'm in position, and I also have backdoor flush draws that are out there, so I can definitely go runner hearts. My gin card is obviously the 8 of hearts, and it's a complete rainbow flop, so I call 150, and the button decides to call. Turn is not exactly my gin card, but pretty close. It's an 8 of diamonds. It does put 2 diamonds out on the board, and obviously it gives us the stone cold nuts. So we're 3 ways onto the flop, and the original gentleman who potted it on the flop, who I'm thinking has a set of queens because I have a jack, so I have blocking a set of jacks, or he could have queen jack, but I'm pretty sure he's got a set of queens as confidently as he potted it. He checks. I go ahead and bet pot for 600. Button goes ahead and calls. He tanks for a little bit and then decides to call. And then the original potter on the flop decides to call. So we are now going to a river with a $2,400 pot. And all I can think about is, Daddy really needs this pot because I'm stuck, and this is a really nice positive EV pot for me right now. Please just put out a black low card. Well, the river puts out the 4 clubs. And so we still have the nuts. First player checks. I go ahead and I bet all in for 625. And the button thinks for a little bit and then decides to make it 2,000. Goes back to the original potter. He, of course, mucks. It's pretty obvious he's got queens. The button misread the board and thought 5, 6 was the nuts, because, again, 4, 7, 8, jack, queens out there, and he turns over 5, 6, 10 king with diamonds. So he actually flopped a better open-ender, and he turned a diamond draw, and then he rivered a worse straight, and with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But it ends up being a huge pot because we end up going up to about 3,600 after that. I think it was like 3,650. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm within striking range of breaking even. I'm only, down $350. I'm like, if I can get even, I'm going to consider this a win tonight after being up $2,000 and then being down $3,000. So fast forward to almost the last hand of the night. It's pretty obvious, really late. Everybody's talking about, this might be the last hand of the night or pretty close to it, or we've called the time, a specific time, and we're calling it quits. And I'm in the small blind, straddles on, pretty much everybody's calling no matter what. So by this time, if somebody pots it to 40 or 50, we're 5-handed, everybody's calling. And I look down at ace, ace, jack 3, no suits. Complete badoogie, no suits whatsoever. And so there's a straddle on, gets back to the button. Button decides to pot it for 50. In this situation, normally I would 3-bet, but the gentleman to my left happened to just get felted out of like a $4,000 or $4,500 pot Both of the players, one to my right and one to my left, had the nuts. Board was 4-6-8. This was the previous hand with 2 diamonds. One guy had 5-7 with diamonds. The other guy had 5-7 with worse diamonds and backdoor spades, and it went runner, runner, spades. So this guy is pretty tilted. So when I call the 50, I do it with the belief that the gentleman to my left, who's only got like 600 in front of him, is going to repot it because he knows it's getting towards the end of the night and he wants to gamble a little bit. So I go ahead and I'm planning on backdoor 4-betting it. So I go ahead and flat the 50. Big blind obliges. Big blind pots it, and he pots it to 220 bucks. And it gets back to the button, and the button flats. And of course, I've got aces. Even though they're dry aces, I go ahead and pot it to 900. Now right now I'm 2,300 effective, 2,340 effective, and the gentleman who, repotted it only has 680 in front of him. The other gentleman beat him out of the pot previously, so of course he's got like $5,000 in front of him. And of course the short stack calls, and then it gets back to the button, and the button goes in the tank for a little bit. And at this point I'm thinking he's got kings. Pretty solid he's got kings. I mean, he could have queens, but I'm pretty confident he's got kings. And he goes ahead and calls for 900 pre, because he did go in the tank for a little bit. Flop comes 3, 4, queen, rainbow. So really I only have to worry about a set of queens here. And with pocket aces, I am not going to fold heads up when I've already got 1,800, 2,500 in the pot, and I only have 1,400 behind. So I just, when in doubt, pot it out. I decided to go ahead and pot it out for 1430, or go all in for 1430. The button snap calls me. So he's either got kings and he's going to die with them, or he's got queens and I'm way behind. Turn card, and it's complete rainbow, 3, 4, queen. Turn card puts out a king. My heart breaks, and I'm like, oh my God, this is really bad. I really need an ace or a 10. And the river puts out a 10. I can't believe it. Literally, it was a $5,400 pot. So I end up having the stone cold nuts, show everybody the bad news. He turns over pocket queens, and we scoop. And so we're in for 4,000, and we end up being out for $5,410. We ended up doing a round of bomb pots after that, because that was a pretty significant pot. You can't really end the night on a $5,000 pot. I mean, you can, like I can, but it's rude if I'm like, no, I'm done now, guys. Of course, I've been here for, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 hours, but yeah, in for 4,000, out for 5,410, net profit of 1410. Super swingy game, but these are the kind of games that I really like, and these are the kind of games, if you're a PLO player, you should really like. So thank you. Hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already, and everybody, play smart and run like a god.